Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So then they'll easier to decay, and then you won't have the issues with the thatch.
Nice.
But that can be a problem, and it's very easy to find out. You can just take a core sampling, and you could use anything that has a hole in it, a pipe that has a hole in it. So you could just core it down and pop it out, and you can see how thick your thatch is. Sometimes it's so bad that the entire grass is growing in the thatch because you haven't cleaned it out.
So that service, when is the best time to do that? Would it be spring, summer, fall?
I think it would be before the growing season, so right in spring, right before your grass, like right now.
Yeah.
Right before your grass wakes up, right aeration time. And I don't know. I've never seen it done in the fall, but I know you can aerate in the fall. But I do know that's the service that that Freddie provides right now is
power raking.
Power raking.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's great. So we've got fertilizing, aeration, power raking, additional chemicals that could be applied to help your turf grass be healthy and ready for the heat of the summer. One that just came to mind for me is pre-emergent for myself. There's a weedy grass that has a tendency to start growing along the edges, the crabgrass. I'm sure you've heard of it. Yeah, so crabgrass is an annual grass. It's also very opportunistic, and so it will show up anytime your grass has stress. And I've found over the last couple of years, I'm getting a lot more crabgrass along the perimeter of the little bit of turf that I have. And really the only way for me to be able to combat that is using a pre-emergent herbicide and applying that early spring and then again kind of late fall. And a couple of applications per year, boom, you can control your crabgrass, which can be such a nuisance. Anyway, it also controls a lot of broadleaf weeds that start popping up into people's grass. Not so much in the early spring, but they definitely come in the summertime. And so that pre-emergent herbicide is something that is persistent in the soil. And so you just simply put it on the top of you broadcast that out, top dress that on your grass. It will last up to 2 months as protection from germinating seeds, weed seeds. Mm-hmm. So there's that little tidbit.
And there are special ones for the lawn, pre-emergence, but there's also ones for gardens. But we're going to stick with lawns. But I think they might even be interchangeable. Like I know there was one that we would use at the U. It was called, what is it, Dementia?
Dimension.
Yes. I'm like, I got dementia thinking about dementia. Dimension. Whatever. That's how I remember that one. I think I forgot it. What is it? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we would use that in our planters. But it said on the label you could use it in your lawn. You could broadcast that into your lawn. So that is one I've used.
Something to consider for people who have concrete areas and those expansion cracks in concrete. Go ahead and put a little bit of that pre-emergent herbicide in those, and you can avoid a lot of additional maintenance. So, and then there's more chemicals that you can put on based on maybe some issues that you might have. There are insecticide granules that you can broadcast out. That's if you have, let's say, white grub. There's another grub too. There's weevils. There's grubs. Many different little bugs that can be a problem to the grass. However, when you put down an insecticide to get rid of the pesky critters, you also kill the beneficial.
So what would be
critters.
some beneficial insects?
Worms, earthworms.
So it would kill the earthworms.
I believe so, yep.
Yeah, it goes down in the soil. They eat the soil.
Yeah, it would jack up like all of the and possibly we don't even know like how much it could affect like the bacteria, the beneficial bacteria, and the microbiome, and that like on a very small scale of all the good things. But so there's that. There's fungicides that could be applied for things like snow mold or fairy ring mushrooms. Usually those occur in kind of wet seasons or just coming out of a wet season. And so to not antagonize it into a worse situation, you don't want to overwater your lawns.
So I guess we could bring up even some of the herbicides that we use. So like for lawn, you want to stay with the 2,4-D. That is the active ingredient. So that will not kill. That this is breaking it up into monocots and dicots. So there are the leafy grass is a monocot, and then the broadleaf weeds are dicots. So the 2,4-D is going to only affect the broadleaf critters or plants. I guess they're not critters.
They could be.
They could be. That one moved. No, just kidding. So that is what will work on those. So if you got to be a little, or you just got to read the label. The label will tell you how to use it. And there are ready to use products, so you don't need to like mix anything. It's all ready to go. I don't think they're as effective. They will work. You might have to reapply multiple times to get, because the weeds that I'm thinking about are, dandelions, black medic, clover, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So those are, I have a problem with thistle in my lawn. I don't know where that came from, but
probably from before.
Yeah, it was probably underneath the turf that they laid down. I hope it wasn't in my turf, but I went through and I probably took out 20 yesterday. Just went through and dug them all out. But that is a big enough one, and it's easy enough to rip out that you can manage it. Same with dandelions. You can just do them by hand. I mean, if you have a full infestation, then you would have to spray. It's just going to take too long. Clover, there's white clover. There's just no way. They're all individual plants. Black medic is kind of like a spreader, so it has a one tap root, and you can rip out the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And the key to all these is you got to get them before they flower, before they seed. So you might be able to see the flowers. You get them. You go after them. Another one I saw in my yard recently, it was more on the edge. It was more on the edge of the lawn with the planter. I mean the garden bed, but it was a variety of a mustard, and I just went after that, and then those are annuals, so they're gone.
Yeah.
Well, some of them are biennial.
Yeah. You've got the whole spectrum of biennial.
Mustards are biennial.
Yeah.
But the ones that I saw, I mean, the rosette, we kind of talked about it before. We talked about biennials you can use in like their flowers that we like.
Yep.
Where most of the biennials that I think of are weeds. Mm-hmm. Thistles, mustards.
Yeah.
What is that? The shepherd's purse.
Purslane?
Yeah. Yeah. And shepherd's purse.
There's white top. That's another major problematic weed.
And then what's the one I just even said? Thistles. Mm-hmm. They're biennial because they have that little rosette the first year, mm-hmm. and then they elongate and flower and spread like a weed.
Like a weed.
Weed.
Nice, nice.
So I got into that, and then what you don't want to use on your lawn is non-selective herbicides. So stay away from those. That would be your glyphosate, that's Roundup. And there's many, many, many products that are glyphosate. And if you spray it on your lawn, it's going to kill your lawn. Non-selective herbicide versus selective herbicide. There is actually grass killer too. So if you wanted to remove some lawn, there's a specific product that you can use to kill it and not kill like say if you had in your flower bed, you had a ornamental grass that maybe is getting out of control and it's encroaching on some of your perennials that you planted or whatever, or maybe when they were little they were close and now they're too big and they're inside of each other and you don't want the grass anymore, but you don't want to hurt your perennials that you planted. You can use a grass killer. It won't hurt the dicots, but it'll hurt the monocots. So
very good. Yeah.
Tangento. Herbicido.
Yes, that's good to. Oh, and actually, as you were talking about that, the glyphosate and the Roundup, something that I've seen done before in the city park, where they used glyphosate or Roundup, and they were going around the trees, the tree rings, right, in the turf. So I'm a proponent of tree rings. It's good to keep the turf away from the trunk. That's great. But what they were doing, and there's no fault to doing this, which is great, is using Roundup to make that circular ring and kind of keep the turf grass from encroaching into that ring. But the guy who was servicing that and applying it walked through the glyphosate, the Roundup, and then continued off to the next tree. And did that ring, continued to the next tree, did that ring. Well, when he walked through it, it got on his shoes, the herbicide got on his shoes, and you could see footprints from one tree to the next, to the next, to the next, that had killed the grass.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just be aware, be careful, and just know that although invisible one day, you will see the damage in about a week.
Yep.
If you walk through it or you accidentally drizzle it from your nozzle from one spot to another. Anyway, just a heads up there.
Yep, and I've seen that too. I mean, I've seen pictures. I've never seen anyone. And that's what we did at the U a lot, is we would use the glyphosate for weed control in our tree rings. Mm-hmm. So it affects on a level of percentages. So the smaller the weed, the easier it is for the chemical to affect it. So if it's a larger, more established plant, it's going to take a heck of a lot more of glyphosate to kill it. So that's why it only becomes active for so long when it's in the air.
Yeah.
It's designed to be absorbed, so it's effective when it's absorbed.
Yeah.
So wear gloves, wear chemical gloves, wear eye protection. Wear long sleeves for freaking sake. I see people doing it short sleeves, shorts, and it's like you're absorbing chemical, bro. There's just, I mean, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. If you've used it, you've absorbed it into your body. Just because you can't absorb it, but minimize as much as possible. Read the back of the bottle. It'll tell you what to wear.
Yeah, it's law. It's absolute law to read the label. So,
anyway, sorry.
Okay, yeah, great. That's
rant.
Perfect. So, turf grass. Is there any more suggestions? I think we've covered spring doings to have like a really nice, healthy, strong grass. Summer.
We didn't really talk about what kind of fertilizer. We just said fertilize.
Right. That's a good point.
When we did our soil tests at Marinda, we found that our soil there, and so we're at the river bottoms, so heavy clay soil was sufficient in both potassium
and
phosphorus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was it?
Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium.
Phosphorus and potassium. So we just needed to apply the level of nitrogen that we wanted. And when you first come out in spring, you want to hit it with a pretty good dose of nitrogen. So what would we use? It was
the 2100. I think that's ammonium sulfate.
Yes, ammonium sulfate. So that's one that you would use right out of the gates. So nitrogen makes it green and makes it grow. Potassium and phosphorus help with other things in the plant. So it doesn't need as much. So those are percentages. So